Hey, everybody.
What up, y'all? Oh, my
Hi,
hair
Glizzy.
looks like shit. Well,
Hi.
thank you. Oh, no, it looks like a mess. Hang on, I gotta check this audio right quick.
Oh, hold on. Everyone, take a look at this while he checks the audio. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Isn't that cool? Hold on. It'll focus in a second. Son of a bitch.
Hang on. You deal with that. I gotta get something for my hair.
Oh, there we go. We got this the last trip to the parks. And we were really holding out hope that it was going to be a good movie because we already bought the pin. And we were not disappointed.
Oh, my fucking
Hair's
tag is
looking
hanging
good.
out.
Wow, he's having a hard time. But hey,
He's a hard worker. Welcome to the stream. We're going to talk all things Shang-Chi. We're going to talk about the movie, how we felt about the movie, what we thought of it, and then discuss where we think the story's going from here. All right, so let's hop right into it. Like I said, spoilers. So
We warned you.
You have been warned. If you are spoiled, baby, that's on you.
That's on you at this point. It's not on us.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can complain to him. Tell him.
Yeah, if you really do want to complain, just tweet at Joe Biden. Tell him that we really fucked it up for you.
Yeah. Let Joe Biden know your frustration specifically about this and nothing else.
Yeah, he's got enough to do.
He's got other stuff on his plate, but this he told me that this was his top priority.
Yeah. All right, so let's get right into it. Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The director of the movie is Destin Daniel Cretton, and the cast is as follows: Simu Liu as Shang-Chi or Sean, Awkwafina as Katie. Some of these names I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce them. I'm going to do my very, very best. I think this is Menger Zhang, who plays Shai Ling. Tony Leung, that plays Wen Wu, Shang-Chi's father. Fala Chen as Ying Li, his mother. Florian Montano, he plays Razor Fist. And what's interesting about him, I didn't recognize him in the movie, but he's a boxer. He's a former heavyweight boxer.
That makes
and
sense.
he was in Creed 2.
Oh.
As Drago's son. He hasn't done very many movies, so it's cool to see him in other stuff. Michelle Yeoh as Ying Nan, who is their aunt. And then Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery, who was last seen in Iron Man 3 and the Marvel one-shot All Hail the King. Mm-hmm. We'll circle back to those in just a second. And then finally, Benedict Wong as Wong, who we know from the Doctor Strange franchise. So stacked cast. Just speaking of the cast, though, like, oh my God, they all knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Fantastic, of course.
And I think in terms of like side character, like no one felt like they were just there, at least for me. Which is a real nice change of pace. Because sometimes you get a character who, even if they're lovable, sometimes they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
But I think in recent years, I would say Marvel is getting really good about utilizing all of the pieces instead of just having tropes like of characters.
Right. And sometimes that means going back in and finding someone to expand upon them.
Right.
Like they didn't need to bring fucking, what is this? Trevor
Slattery.
They didn't need to bring Trevor Slattery back.
Nah.
But they did in a helpful way that utilized him a little bit more, gave him more of a purpose than just being like, oh, that fucking actor, that fake
Mandarin. The fake Mandarin.
But yeah, I mean, that's something that they're doing now. They're going back and reaching into like what they've already had.
Right.
To bring back like pieces.
Right.
To make them make sense a little bit more, or make them more throughout the entire MCU.
And he wasn't utilized like a Jimmy Woo was in WandaVision, but I mean, he still served a purpose there, and it was just cool. Like, how many people do you think there are who either don't remember Iron Man 3 or haven't seen it?
Yeah.
Because after a certain point, some of these older movies, they don't really play into as much.
Right.
At least until
that
now.
You think. Exactly. Because if you had someone watch, like, if someone's just interested in, like, Endgame, they might not need to watch Iron Man 3 to get to that point. You know what I mean? Some people are just trying to get, like, give me everything that's relevant to this story.
Right.
And that's not relevant. But it's relevant now.
Exactly.
Which I appreciate. Because we just watched Iron Man 3.
And, well, I mean, because we were talking about putting something else on the other day. You were about to watch Thor: The Dark World, and I was like, well, you had just watched Avengers, so why don't we watch Iron Man 3? Because it's directly after.
What it was. It was Thor.
Good thing, because I didn't realize he was going to be in this until I started seeing pictures of him at like the premiere
and stuff. Yeah.
And I was like, wait,
why is he there?
What?
Yeah. That was one of those things where it's like, I didn't know how he was going to be utilized, but I kind of wish that they had kept it under wraps a little bit better, because it would have been really cool to be like, oh my, like I had no idea, which towards the end, especially in the after credit scenes, there were people who I was like, I had no idea they were going to be in this.
And I think if it was like something that like, oh, Ben Kingsley is known for going to other Marvel premieres, then it would have been a better kept secret. But because it was just like, it was this particular movie and we know his character's past with the 10 Rings, we're like, huh. Interesting. So yeah, that was really, really cool. And I love that Marvel is going back and revisiting these old things, because now someone who's not familiar can go back and watch that
and be like,
and see how these things
like, how do we know this person from here? Be like, oh, you haven't seen Iron Man 3? He's fucking off his rocker. You need to go watch it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a couple other things that tie into certain movies, and we'll get to those in just a little bit. But before we do, a big part of what we do over here at Perez Periódico is that, you know, we talk about all these, you know, all the nerdy things we enjoy, whether it be Marvel, DC, other movies, wrestling, whatever. But we do like to shine and talk specifically about, you know, diversity and inclusion as well. And in a year that we've seen just a horrific amount of anti-Asian hate crimes and discrimination, you know, over the course of the pandemic, this movie came out at a really, really pivotal time where I think positive Asian representation is so desperately needed, especially for, like, let's face it, Western audiences. Yeah. And yeah, this movie was just so good. I would like to hear more of your just kind of general impression of the movie, you know, if there's any certain things you liked about it, and you can obviously get as spoiler heavy as you want.
Oh, I don't even know, like, see, I'm one of those people where I need to watch something 4 times over to get it, like, locked in the noggin. That's why I rewatch everything so frequently. But yeah, I just remember thinking that, I mean, it's hard. We're not Asian at all. Neither of us. And this felt very specifically Chinese.
Right.
So there's a lot of that kind of cultural stuff that we can't speak on. I don't know how accurate all of that stuff was. There is a YouTuber named Shiran Zhao. She broke down the new Mulan and then the old Mulan.
Right. I remember. Yeah.
She's Chinese Canadian. I'm really excited to see her break this one down, because I would love to see all of the, like, specifically Chinese influences, something we wouldn't have even thought.
Right.
Like, I'm excited for that. So if you're interested in Chinese culture, I recommend, I think her name's Shiran Zhao. Anyway, but other than that, as someone who's, like, not connected to the culture at all, going from, like, a completely, like, I don't know if it's accurate, it was incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah.
And just the fact that we saw so many Asian people on a screen at once in an MCU movie, I mean, that's insane. It's only recently where, like, movies like Crazy Rich Asians comes out and you're like, oh, like, this is a majority Asian cast.
Yeah.
It's so rare to see. And like you said, right now, when so many people are horrible and callous and don't understand and don't care to understand, having something like this for people who, like, if you're really into the MCU, sorry, like, you have to watch this movie.
Right.
It's like forcing culture on people in not a bad way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, God
not
forbid.
In a bad way. That's sometimes the only way to get through to people.
Absolutely.
They refuse to acknowledge other people's humanity until they're in it and they're experiencing it. So I think it's super important that it came out now,
right,
like you were saying. And I hope that people give it a chance to show Marvel, but also, like, everyone everywhere, hey, there's an audience for this, and people will appreciate it if you put the time and money into doing it, and doing it hopefully correctly. Again, I don't know how accurate everything was.
Right.
There's even a quip in the beginning where Shang-Chi was like, I just call him Sean. He was Sean at that point. But he was talking about this story where someone, like, called him Gangnam Style. Yeah. And he's like, I'm not even Korean. And the funny thing about that is, in Kim's Convenience, the show in Canada where he, like, kind of got famous, he played a Korean person, and he's very much Chinese. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of funny. I don't know if that was, like, a direct shout out, but yeah, it was also cool hearing him speak so much Chinese.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Is that correct?
I'm glad we heard a lot. A lot of Chinese in this.
I greatly appreciate
Yeah,
that
me
because
too.
it is so unrealistic and it happens all the time in movies all the time. Less so now, but it's like this whole story, everyone in it is from this one particular culture where they don't speak English and everyone's speaking English.
Yeah.
They're British for some reason. Why are they always British? I don't know. But I would rather hear a native language and read subtitles than hear everyone speaking English all the time where it doesn't make sense. And we did have Katie as like a character who admittedly her Chinese wasn't very good. So a lot of the times like it made sense why they're speaking English around her because she won't understand it otherwise. But when it was just them, like when he saw his sister in the fight ring,
Right.
He spoke Chinese to her the entire time. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. That's realistic.
Yeah.
I don't know. I appreciated that.
So it's interesting that you point that out because I mean, obviously, yes, you're right. Neither of us are Asian.
Yeah.
And so there's not a lot that we can like. Well, I actually found myself kind of thinking about it, and like obviously the cultures are different, but there's enough of that familiar thread that allows me to resonate with these characters. So like Katie, whose family comes from a very specific place, but she grew up in the States and she pretty much just speaks English. Mm-hmm. She may understand a few words here and there and, you know, will refer to her grandmother how she would, you know, things like that.
That's you, baby.
Yeah. Like I still say tío and tía and like, or like titi, and I'll still use specific words here and there, but I mean, I'm not fluent in Spanish, so that was kind of cool that I could connect with her on that, and also like, and I mean, not that this is a good thing, but like I understand where he's coming from. So like Shang-Chi was, you know, called like Gangnam Style, you know, and any Latin kid will tell you how they grew up being called like fucking Pablo or Pedro or something like that. And that ain't no distance to anybody who actually has those names. But I'm saying like those generalizations.
Exactly.
So it was super cool. And just to see like those little nuances of like, you know, him taking off his shoes before he goes into the apartment and things like that. Just like, it's just like those small enough things that we all can like understand like, oh, this is super real.
Right.
For this group of people. I found myself kind of being able to resonate with them more than I was expecting, which was nice.
Yeah, especially with a character like Shang-Chi, which is like, he was raised by what we knew as the Mandarin.
Yeah.
From a child, he was raised to be a killer, like a hired hitman, basically.
Right.
I feel like we shouldn't, on paper, it's like, you wouldn't relate to that.
Yeah.
But then him, like, waking up on his IKEA bed frame that I recognize with his IKEA side tables and like going to work this like minimum wage, probably like hours on your feet job.
Yeah.
That's relatable to a lot of people. So I kind of like that they took that because it could have very easily been, oh, he's this fucking hotshot rich guy, doesn't know anything about what real world life is like and stuff.
That's another thing I really appreciated that they did. So like, I'm trying to phrase this delicately. So like, you know, there's this big, you know, like model minority thing that Asian people are too often like stereotyped with.
Right.
And how many people do you know like our age that are like, I don't really know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And that's something that both, you know, like Shang-Chi had his own baggage as to why he was the way he was. But even like, I don't know, maybe I really connected with Katie for some reason. But just someone who's like, I have this degree and like I know all these things, but like I don't want to do just one thing. Like I don't know what I want to do. I can't see myself pinpointing it.
When she was talking about like how she would get moderately good at something and then get bored and like move on to the next thing because she was terrified to fail at like the thing that she was being good at.
Yeah.
That was my entire adolescence, like summed up so perfectly. Just like jumping from one thing to another because you want to learn everything, but then you're never good at anything. Yeah. You're only like decent. That's why I can like read some of the Korean alphabet, but I can't speak any Korean at all. Like that's so relatable.
These are issues that everyone goes through.
Yeah.
And, you know, insecurities that everyone goes through. So yeah, it was a surprisingly grounded movie for all of the stuff that was going in, and I'm surprised that they were able to land these story beats.
Yeah.
this character development.
Because a lot of it's so fucking... It's not even like magic or mystical stuff. It's just like... It's kind of just something new that we haven't seen before.
Right.
Like, we never really got answers about the rings or where they came from or how they're powerful.
Right.
Like, we never learned any of that stuff.
Yeah, we can talk about this now. I remember when the movie was done, I remember leaning over to you and I was like, this movie is a lot about trauma.
Yeah. And
so,
like family dynamics.
Yeah. So
family trauma.
Even the villain, Wen-Wu, I struggle calling him a villain. He is a villain.
I would say he was a villain who then became good and then went back to being a villain. He's
been around for thousands of years because he had the rings that was able to basically give him eternal life and all this power, and he just was living throughout the centuries
conquering literally conquering
from the shadows, so it was kind of cool that them seeing them in the different time periods.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then he met the love of his life and decided to hang up the rings, so to speak. But then once she died,
he was like, fuck it,
like we're going back to it. And then so you see like Shang-Chi is like kind of struggling with how he grew up, because we later find out in the movie that he watched his mother die, and his father basically raised him in a very extremist, like abusive way of life.
Right. Like, I think his dad, the thought process was like, my wife was so skilled. I mean, she could fight. She didn't have her magic that she did in Tao Lo. But she could still fight, and she still died. Like, he couldn't save her. And he thinks it's because he wasn't wearing the rings. That might be part of it. But I think his thought process was, if my son is so brutally and rigidly trained for the rest of his life, he won't ever die. Not like die in the same way that she did. He won't be helpless.
The goal was, he trained him so that no man would be able to kill him.
Right. And like, it's insane. And it's also child abuse. But also, as a parent, I can kind of understand, like, I need to put you here so that everyone else is here, and you can never be taken away from me like your mother was.
Right.
There was some sexism because he didn't decide that his daughter was worth that training, which, I mean, again, child abuse. But yeah, it's like it was hard at every point to be like, everything he's doing is explicitly 100% wrong and evil, which that's how you make a good villain character. It has to be levels of gray. They can't just be horrible through and through all the time, because then of course you hate them. Right. You're not going to feel anything when they lose or die. Right. When Wu died, you felt something. You felt a lot. It was sad.
But it was still, it never lost that, like, it didn't paint him as like a good guy either. No. But what I appreciated about it is that you still felt the complex emotions that Shang-Chi was feeling in that moment. Like that was his dad, and really he just wanted his dad to be there. Yeah. That was like his biggest complaint, was that his dad chose the rings over. Yeah. So, and again, with like a movie that like, it's literally showing us like dragons and like this, this Talo dimension world, and like there's a lot of shit happening in it. And it's only partially about that. But yeah, they never lost sight of this really personal story that they were telling with these characters. And I was just so impressed with how they handled the story. And the closest thing I can compare it to, I mean, for obvious reasons, is Black Panther. In terms of like the representation and like the types of story they're telling. Black Panther really talked about like issues that were affecting Black people around the world, and like specifically in America, through that movie. And this movie, while touching on certain cultural things, was still just a very personal story between this family. which I really, really appreciated. Something else I appreciated was the set design and the costumes.
Beautiful.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
When they were in, when they were everywhere. Like even that Golden Daggers Club, I think it was called, where they were doing that tournament. Was? Yeah. Even that was cool to look at. It gave me a lot of Madripoor vibes. Was not Madripoor, we learned.
Yeah, well, that was like a common thing that people were guessing, was that was Madripoor. So we know it's not now.
But yeah, especially in the Talo area, it was just gorgeous.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that is like, at least from what I remember of people breaking down the trailer, was that it was like reminiscent of like classic Chinese and Asian cinema.
Yeah.
Like those nature shots and like the close-ups mid fight sequence or mid like other stuff, and then you're zooming in right on the face. It like, I don't know, it felt reminiscent of the very few Asian shows that I've watched. Mm-hmm. They're mostly like romance, like young adult romance. Anyway. No period dramas, but that's kind of like the vibe that it gave me.
Yeah.
And the like floating movement that was like throughout the entire thing. That's also what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a second. This movie has some of the best fighting in modern, like definitely Marvel movies.
Yeah.
But just like it's some of the best action out there right now.
Yeah.
Like this.
It's like it's like a two separate, it's because one's supposed to like represent his mom, the other's supposed to represent his father, the two different fighting styles. One is so flowy, calm, beautiful, dancing, floaty movement.
Yeah.
And the other is super fast paced, like hard,
brutal
fighting. So it's really, really cool to see those, especially when they're together, like when his mom and dad were fighting in the beginning.
Right.
That was super cool to see when he was training with his aunt, learning how to fight like his mom. I think that's when it was the coolest. But like I'm looking back and I'm like, the bus scene, awesome. The scaffolding scene, awesome.
And the bus scene happened like in the first half hour of the movie. It was super early. I was surprised we got that early.
Because that was a good fight scene.
Yeah.
That was so good. And I also, I'm not 100% sure of Simu Liu's like background, if he knew any martial arts or any fighting or dancing even. But
he trained his ass off for this movie.
Yeah, like there were times where like I'm like I see his face. That's him.
Yeah.
Doing that. And there's like a behind the scenes thing of him running and hanging off the mirror of the bus. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah. But like it really shows how thorough those fight sequences were. And fight sequences make or break Marvel movies.
Yes.
You hear people talk all the time about that one fucking Black Widow fight in the beginning of the first Avengers movie where she like flips her hair back, doesn't make any contact with anybody, and then the guy goes flying. But you also hear about like the Steve Rogers Winter Soldier fight with the knife all the time. Two opposite ends of that like good choreography spectrum. So it's really like lasting. It's a testament to how important fight choreography is, especially in a Marvel movie.
Yeah, and I mean, and also you can have these like really, godlike characters powering the hell out of each other. No tea, no shade, Man of Steel. But it's a testament to the filmmakers on this and to know how to shoot those kinds of scenes. Mm-hmm. Because, you could do a profile shot, which the one they did in the building during the scaffolding fight was beautiful. But, like, the fact that like, when to go in and out, it really does make a difference on how you experience those fights.
100%.
And then the fight with, like, the fights with, like, Wen Wu and stuff, like, still keeping those, like, that style of fighting that, like, because even without the rings, that man's a trained killer.
I think I like that aspect of it too. The fact that the rings are important. The rings definitely change the fight style a little bit, but you still have to know how to fight. Yeah. You can't just put them on and be like, and it does the work for you. I think that's what I like. The choreography of the rings was still fight choreography. It wasn't like anything, like you're just standing there and they're doing everything for you.
Yeah. It was just the different styles they used, and like you mentioned, the flowy. It's almost like Ying Li's style was more to protect, and Wenwu's was like to kill.
Oh yeah. So it's like offense versus defense.
Yeah. So it was a really, really cool dynamic, and it has some of the best action that I've seen in a long time, especially in regards to Marvel movies.
I think I saw a TikTok actually of this guy, and I think he said that he trained in China as a kid. I think Wushu, and then he moved to a different place that I can't remember. But anyway, he trained the person who was the fight coordinator for the movie. So he was showing like his background and he's like, I trained this guy who's going to be this in this movie, fight coordinator. So I have like every confidence that it's going to be amazing action. And I was watching this and I'm like, yes, sir, but you are biased, aren't you? He was 100% right. He was 100% right. I shouldn't have doubted that man. I can't remember who he was. It's just like something random that popped up on my For You page.
Yeah. That's cool. And you know, we talked a lot about Awkwafina as Katie, who like shouts to Awkwafina. I like her more and more as an actor every time I see her. Yeah. I'm not super familiar with her, and I know some people have a certain feeling about like kind of the public persona of Awkwafina, but at least as an actor, I appreciate, you know, seeing her trajectory, and I think she's a really talented performer. But man, Simu Liu, man, like that guy is like, you got to give him his respect. That guy is crazy talented. Some of us
have been giving him his respect. To be fair, I'm pretty sure Kim's Convenience was his big break.
Right.
That is like a small, in the grand scheme of like the world, it's Canadian television.
Right.
How often do you hear of like Canadian TV shows breaking through? You got like Schitt's Creek and Kim's Convenience, and that's pretty much it. So, I mean, that's not it. That was... You know what I mean? Yeah. As far as like what I'm aware of as someone who doesn't live in Canada. Yeah, seeing him in that, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be very brutally honest. Kim's Convenience is so like lighthearted, but like they dive into deeper stuff. But in the surface, it's like a lighthearted family sitcom, basically. Right. So I was like a little worried. I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen him do anything like super intense and deep. Like, I've never seen him do anything long form, like a movie. It's all been television. And I mean, that could just be my own ignorance because all I've seen of his is Kim's Convenience. But coming from that, I was like even more impressed after Shang-Chi because he did it.
He did that.
He did it. That's so crazy. Like, he tweeted about it and then he did it.
Yeah. And just watching him in the movie, it's like, we watched the interview of his that he did on Jimmy Kimmel, and like he seems so nice. He oozes charm.
He's so
even when he's not trying to, because he seems like such a normal guy. But just in this movie, it's like it's the same thing. He's super charming, but he's also very, very funny. And I don't know, he's just even though he looks the way he does, he still is kind of like a John Everyman. Like he's just like a normal guy.
Yeah.
And then you find out, holy shit, this guy is like the most talented fighter in the world in the movie, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But knowing that he trained his ass off and like he really put in the work, he really wanted to make the most of this movie, is just so admirable. So yeah, shout outs to Simu Liu on that one. I can't wait to see where else he pops up in the MCU and just where his career takes off from here. I mean, because I mean, like, it's not like he hasn't found some level of success before this, but I really hope,
this kind of like catapult.
And I want to see him in more than just like kind of movies. I really hope to see him.
You should watch Kim's Convenience. It's really good.
No, I know, but I'm saying like I would like to see, I hope he does
a rom-com,
like a Netflix rom-com or something. Like I would love to see. He is a very charming leading man. I'll give him that.
I mean, yeah.
I'm giving him all. I'm giving you all your roses, Simu, when you watch this.
Yeah, Simu, when you watch this.
But let's talk about some of the other. Did you have anything else on like the?
I was trying to find that freaking guy and I can't find him anymore. What's the question?
Never mind. So let's talk about some of the other interesting things we noticed. Obviously, someone mentioned it in our chat toward the beginning of the stream. Mm-hmm. So in the trailers, we were blessed. We were blessed with knowing that yes, it was indeed Abomination that does pop up in this movie. He's not he's not a very big part of it. And actually,
no.
And also his cameo was not what I thought it was going to be.
Also, no. So Abomination was like very clear in the trailer, but what wasn't clear is who he was fighting. So we knew that it was a
sorcerer.
A sorcerer or whatever. Sorry. That's it, right?
Yeah.
We knew it was a sorcerer because he had the big old glowing orange shield, but we weren't sure who exactly it was. The back of the head looked like Wong, so everyone was like, that's probably Wong. And guess what? It ended up being Wong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Kevin Feige did say that in an interview that it was him.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't watch stuff like that because I don't like to be spoiled. Well, okay. Anyway. So, yeah, it was Wong.
But yeah, so, right. But what I didn't realize was that we got a very good up close look at
nasty look at
Abomination,
ass.
who I found out was uncredited, but it was the voice and whatnot was done by the original Abomination himself, Tim Roth, who played him, who we last saw in 2009's The Incredible Hulk. Like, we have not seen or heard from Abomination for that long.
That's why it wouldn't be surprising to me. I think one of my friends maybe like I don't know who that is, or like they didn't know like that was supposed to be a big moment in the trailer.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people, they didn't watch Incredible Hulk.
And it's very hard to find like, so I mean, we won't go into it here, but there's a like a history between why like Marvel doesn't make like a standalone Hulk movie or anything like that anymore. It has to do with like distribution rights and all sorts of jargon, and a lot of people just don't have quick and easy like streaming access to it.
Yeah.
Like you can watch most of the MCU stuff on Disney Plus. I mean, You can't see like the Spider-Man movies, but there's other places.
Yeah, where could you even see The Incredible Hulk?
So
you have to have it on DVD, I guess.
Yeah, you have to have or you can like maybe rent it on like Amazon but you have to like go out of your way, and like you're gonna have to spend money to watch it.
It's not just something that you can
that you've already paid for.
Yeah.
So
for a lot of people, seeing Abomination, that was their first time.
Yeah.
That must have been so terrifying.
Yeah. But what was even crazier was that this fight scene wasn't what a lot of people thought it was gonna be. They thought it was gonna be this like tournament. But it wasn't. It was just more like we're placing bets on who's gonna win what fight.
Yeah, it was like
it's like a fight club.
Yeah.
So Wong actually referred to Abomination as Emil, and that's because that's his name. He's Emil Blonsky. So that was like, and then they left together.
Yeah.
And we were like, hold on, wait.
Yeah. So
what?
After this fight that they were fighting against each other, and Wong opened a portal and was like, time to jet, and they both walked through together. And I was trying to look at the other side, and it kind of looked like a lab.
It kind of looked like a lab,
but like I don't know where they went. How did they even? How
do they know each other?
How do they know each other?
So yeah, that left a lot more questions than answers. But I'm excited to see where that goes, because like holy shit, like that's a big name to just bring back, literally.
Right? So yeah. Speaking of someone like forgotten in Marvel history that they just kind of like plucked and were like, we'll make him relevant again.
Yeah.
In this movie that not a lot of people remember, can watch, or have watched in the past.
Right.
Something that we've like never really touched on before.
Yeah.
In the MCU.
So that was a crazy little cameo. In this same scene, just before we see Abomination, though, we see there's like a lot of different like
fights happening
in these other little rooms, and we see this like assassin. Mm-hmm. Fighting against this red glowing guy. Mm-hmm. And no, it's not the Human Torch.
No, but like a glow from within, if you will.
And again, we just mentioned how we just watched Iron Man 3 and we recognized it was a person infected with Extremis.
Which is like, I don't even know when Iron Man 3 was supposed to take place.
Iron Man 3 took place either sometime in 2012 or 2013, because it happens directly after The Avengers, which is in 2012.
Okay. Like, that was the last time we had even ever thought that anyone with Extremis
We
was
haven't
alive.
even heard the term Extremis since then.
I just assumed that they were all dead, except for Peepus, but she had it taken out of her. Yeah. Remember?
Yeah, that's Pepper Potts.
Sorry, Pepper Potts. But, like, is that going to come into play again? People who with because they were bombs. They were human bombs.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll Yeah, I mean,
like, that's,
who knows?
I guess I guess it would kind of make sense that not all of them were there that day and they all didn't fucking die. But
and even if we never see them again, it's like it's such
cool
a fun treat for,
because we both like looked at each other like, we just saw these motherfuckers in Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's so many other characters in that scene where they're walking through the hallway and there are all these like rooms and fights happening. There's probably so many like little hidden.
Now that I'm thinking about
Easter
it, the person who was fighting the extremist person, for all we know, I just saw it was a woman assassin. It could have been one of the Black Widows.
That's true. I didn't get a good look at what they were wearing.
Yeah, me
they
neither.
were wearing black.
But
I mean, maybe like anything's fucking possible. It could be anybody.
Yeah. It was such a cool little treat for snack.
What if at the end the 10 rings were training some of the widows? Remember?
I mean, they're already very, very skilled, so why the fuck not?
If I was the new leader
why
of
not
the 10
recruit
rings,
those women?
I would recruit every widow I could find.
Yeah.
Interesting. That was in the second post-credit sequence.
Yeah, but we'll touch on those in just a second, because there's some other cameos we got to get to.
And those are like important going forward, figuring out what the fuck those post-credit scenes
are. So, but wrapping up this little section here, I'm sure there are other like Easter eggs and
100%.
and things like that, but those were some of the big ones that I noticed right off the bat. So if there's anything interesting that you guys noticed, please put them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys saw. But actually, you started talking about one of them, but let's talk about both of those post-credit scenes. So yes, for those who have been watching Marvel movies at all, you know what? We saw at least 4 people leave as soon as the credits started rolling.
And it's not like, hey, we got to go beat the rush. It was 2:30 on a Friday afternoon. Like, no one was there. But I think it's people who genuinely don't care to watch the after credit scenes like in the theater. They're like, oh, we'll just go home and watch them later. I think there are genuinely people, like, I think they know.
Pathetic.
I just don't think they care enough.
Anyway, yeah, but I'm still like, man.
Or maybe that was their second time seeing it.
Just stay for... Yeah, I guess it did come out last night. You know the movie, it made $8.8 million for the Thursday preview?
Is that good?
I mean, yeah.
I hope so.
Almost $10 million.
I want it to make a ton of money.
We'll say it again at the end. Go see this movie.
Yeah.
If you want to see more representation of all kinds in movies you love, go support this movie. Anyway, so let's get to these post-credit scenes. So this first one, I titled it myself. Analyzing the Rings. So at the end of the film, we see Shang-Chi and Katie having dinner with their friends, which I guess they're the friend couple that goes out with their other friends who are an actual couple, which I find kind of endearing.
Another thing that I like, kind of a general thought, they didn't push that Katie Shang-Chi romance, which I appreciate.
Me too. And they did it in a way that like there's just enough space that if they wanted to do that, they could and it would make sense.
But also it would make sense if they completely didn't.
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you to the filmmakers.
Not everything
on
has
this
to be a romance. Fucking Age of Ultron. Thank you.
We shan't speak of that one.
We shan't.
So at the end of this, Wong opens up his portal and goes and gets Shang-Chi and Katie.
Which was interesting. That they'd take Katie too.
Yeah.
Because like she was there.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But a lot of people were there. She's not like...
the only other person that came back... Well, I guess we're the 10 Rings folks. Anyway, but they got Shang-Chi and Katie, and then the movie ends. Then we see our first post-credit scene. So we see Wong, and he's kind of using his magic to like analyze the rings.
Yeah.
And who do we see on a video call? Not like a Zoom, but like a fancy Avengers style video call.
They're hollow video calls.
But Bruce Banner.
Yes.
And Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers herself, not the Hulk.
No.
Bruce Banner. Yeah. And they're analyzing the 10 Rings with Shang-Chi and Katie. So they specify how it's like unknown material. It seems to be super old.
Mm-hmm. Older than the 1,000 years that Shang-Chi's father had them.
And they said from the moment Shang-Chi first used the rings, they were able to feel it in Comertage and like wherever. Mm-hmm. So like they were all able to feel this happen. They as they're analyzing it, they're like, oh, it's signaling.
Yeah, it's sending a beacon, they said, but they're not sure where, like to what, a different dimension, I don't know.
A different galaxy.
A different world. I don't know.
Yeah. So
a different version of Shang-Chi. I don't.
Oh my God.
Hitting my shit.
So it was super interesting though, because they talk about stuff they kept under wraps. Had no idea we were going to see Brie Larson or Mark Ruffalo in this,
and I appreciated it.
Yes, absolutely.
That I didn't know. But yeah, that was a crazy people to see, like, of all the people.
And so there's a couple things we noticed right off the bat. So story wise, in the comics, like when the Mandarin found, the 10 rings, is, he got it from like alien tech and, was able to do this. Now, obviously, this movie veered away from a lot of what the source material was, because a lot of it was like super old and outdated and offensive. Yeah. So, so I can appreciate that we're going in a new direction with it. And I like that we don't immediately know what's probably a threat is. I mean, I know we have Secret Invasion on the horizon, so
we have a lot of shit on the horizon. Like, who knows what this could be?
It could be connected with the Marvels, because Carol had to leave pretty quickly.
But also, like, in the context of the movie in itself, when his mom was talking to him in the beginning, Shang-Chi's mom, she was talking about, like, no one knows where your dad got it from. Like, did he get it from a cave? Did he get it from
a crater?
A crater, yeah. They weren't sure, which is, like, one I never even thought to think of, like, where did he get these? Like, that never crossed my mind. So I guess that's good on them for their storytelling abilities. But, like, it is interesting. Like, we don't know where they came from, even still. Like, after that after credit sequence, they never mentioned, like, they said it wasn't
vibranium.
Wasn't vibranium.
It's not Chitauri or anything.
Not Chitauri, yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, or anything that Carol is familiar with.
And Carol's familiar with a lot of shit. Bruce Banner's a multi-time doctor. Like, neither of them could place where it was. So,
come on, Bruce, use one of your PhDs.
So I had a thought that maybe it's left over from the first time the Eternals came to Earth, because in the trailer it says that they came like 7,000 years ago. Right. Maybe it's like something that they created to leave to someone to be like, here, protect yourself. We got a jet. I don't know. But after finding out that Eternals was supposed to come before Shang-Chi, now I'm like, that's probably not it. Yeah. But I don't know where they came from.
Yeah. So I'm super excited to see where that leads off to. And a couple other things we noticed. So Wong specified that they felt it in Comertage. Now, remember, Wong lives at the Sanctum Sanctorum in New York with Doctor Strange. What the hell was he doing at the Comertage? The Comertage is where they were in the first Doctor Strange movie, when they were like training and shit, training sorcerers. Maybe he's training other sorcerers. He goes back and forth. That could
be it. Maybe
he has instant
transport.
Yeah.
The New York Sanctum got all fucked up too last time, because they brought the
Hulk came into it, right? Crashing through.
Yeah, via the Bifrost, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It also would is that where Wong was going with his bags in the Spider-Man trailer?
Maybe
he was going back to Comertage.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, the trailer didn't tell us a whole lot of what was happening.
But I mean, it's just, I didn't even clock that, and then you afterwards were like, why was he in Comertage? Doesn't really make sense. I guess because that wouldn't make sense, because then even if Doctor Strange went back as the Sorcerer Supreme, like Tildy was there training people, like that seemed to be where she stayed the whole time, right?
Yeah, but
Wong would stay.
Yeah,
as the protector of that sanctum. So, it's very interesting. I don't know why he would be there, unless he got word from Comertage. They're like, we felt that too.
Or maybe he doesn't live in the sanctum, although because he was already there in Infinity War and they were talking about getting sandwiches or whatever.
I assumed that he did.
Yeah, so
he was the protector because he was the librarian, and then
right. So anywho, and then the other thing we noticed was that Bruce Banner is Bruce Banner, not Professor Hulk, not the Hulk. He's back in his human form. And you mentioned, and so did others, that he looks noticeably older.
Yeah.
And at his arm is still in the sling.
Yeah. At first I was like, how old is Mark Ruffalo? Like, is he just did he age a lot? And I just didn't even catch it. But no, I think it was a purposeful decision to make him look older. Yeah. So I'm thinking that the force of the Infinity Stones and his snap was so powerful that it injured the uninjurable Hulk.
Yeah.
and maybe took away a little of that like healing power that it gave Bruce Banner in his mortal form.
Well, and the whole purpose of him becoming that like Professor Hulk kind of character was that he wanted to like
combination.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm assuming, I know we're gonna see him in She-Hulk, and there's a rumor that we'll see him in Moon Knight.
Interesting.
So I'm assuming that we're gonna see a lot more of Bruce in the future.
And get an explanation.
But as of right now, we don't really know why he's a human again, because it seemed like he was going to stay in his Hulk form.
Maybe with the injury, maybe one day he shifted and he can't shift back.
Maybe.
Because he's too injured. Is that like a permanent sling? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, depending on the timeline, I mean, it's like he quite literally snapped like all the power in the universe. So like it really fucked him up.
Yeah.
So it was just, it's very interesting. And maybe a little less interesting, but to Kendra's celebration, we saw that Carol Danvers has her long hair again.
Medium length. I hated her haircut. I hated the stupid mohawk in her helmet, which is like before the haircut, but like, I hated it so much. So I was happy to see that. That's my own personal, like, I don't know. No one else probably even noticed, but
it's a very meaty post-credit scene, because then they're just like, get some rest because your life's going to change from here on out.
Yeah, they basically made Shang-Chi an Avenger on that day. Yeah. And he didn't ask. He was like, I just went out for dinner and now I'm a fucking Avenger. Oh, well.
And
that's what happens, I guess.
He's going to be like fucking like Sam and Peter and all them. You're like, does this job pay?
Yeah, but yeah, and then of course in like typical Carol fashion, she's like, I have to go. I have something popped up. So Eric Voss from New Rockstars was like, maybe that's like the inciting incident into the Marvels is whatever she's going to go address right now. But
I mean, she's gonna have to wind up on Earth because both I guess maybe not what's her name,
Monica?
from not Monica,
because she was summoned to the skies last time we saw her.
But there's one more Marvel that's out there, and her name's Miss Marvel.
True.
Who we're gonna see in that movie. So
yeah, and she should be on her.
Yeah, I would be fucking shocked if she wasn't.
If she wasn't.
But yeah, so that was the first one. That was the first post-credit scene, and like Marvel likes to do nowadays, they have more than one. This particular movie had two. So the second post-credit scene is we see Xialing appears to take over the 10 rings. Yes. Now, they did say in the context of the movie that she was dismantling the 10 rings.
When did they say that? Because I didn't remember that.
They said it at that little dinner scene.
Oh.
Because when she was like, where's the sister of yours?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's currently dismantling them.
Yeah. They're like, gotcha. he had all these places.
And I mean, dismantled is a word for renovation.
I guess, but it seems to be expanding as opposed to
evolving. It's evolving. So we see Xialing.
Xialing, yeah.
And she's summoned by Razor Fist, which is almost as good as Laserface. Taserface, sorry, yes. Razor Fist comes and gets her and is like, blah, blah, blah. And she comes out and she's sitting on her father's throne with the 10 rings logo behind her. And
Badass.
She's like, let's fucking get started. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, I don't even care if this 10 rings is also bad. That's fucking badass. And it zooms out and we see like a renovation. She has John, who is running her fight club,
right,
also by her side. And there's like graffiti everywhere. Yeah. And you see women training because they weren't allowed to train under her sexist ass, old ass dad. And we also see men sparring also in the same courtyard. And we zoom out and there's this like huge mural of her also spray painted. That was fucking cool. And then it fades out and we see the 10 rings will be back, right?
Well, yeah, the screen says the 10 rings will return.
So that's very specific. And I don't know what that means. I was under the impression that means that they're maybe not good, but not evil anymore. Maybe this evolution of the 10 rings is going to be like somewhat benevolent, just like middle of the road. I mean, she ran a fight club, so like she's not going to be 100% goody two shoes, but I would hope that it's not like an evil organization like her her dad had it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it felt somewhat ominous, but I don't know. But there was also something very empowering about it, just to see her building her own empire.
Because of her background and her story and how she was like, my mom died, then my brother left, then my dad fucked off. He never let me train with the boys.
Right.
I decided to build my own empire. Like, how do you not feel for that? So when you see her, like, finally she's gotten the empire that she's wanted all along, it kind of feels like vindication. So I feel like they wouldn't take that and be like, oh yeah, she's fucking bad too. Yeah. At least I hope not. So I'm very curious what we're going to see from the 10 Rings going forward, because they've been this big bad since Iron Man 3.
And we've seen them here and there. We saw them in the first Ant-Man movie, if y'all remember that.
Oh yeah.
And they fucked off with some of that yellow jacket tech. So who knows if that'll ever come back into play. But we also like there's a lot of places that they could pop up that we just don't know about yet. They could
Armor Wars, maybe.
They could pop up in Armor Wars. They could pop up in Hawkeye, like.
Yeah, anything.
Yeah.
So very interested and excited to see where they pop up, because now I care about them.
It's so interesting because typically it would say like which hero would come back.
Right.
Didn't mention anything about Shang-Chi. No. It just said the 10 rings will return.
Yeah.
Which is that his actual 10 rings? Is it the group 10 rings?
We don't.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Who has? Well, Shang-Chi has the ring.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was very. It wasn't at all what I expected. John expected it to be Trevor Slattery fucking like messing around with that weird bird chicken thing.
Yeah, I thought maybe we would see him like fucking go to an audition or like start a YouTube channel or something.
Because a lot of the times those second post credits are just like funny haha ones for the people who stayed behind. This was impactful. Like this meant something for the future.
Insane post credit scenes.
Meaty, I think, is what we called it. Meaty post-credit scenes.
Meteor. But yeah, overall, I guess our final thoughts. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I think it's, again, Marvel hasn't, at least this year, Marvel's not let down. And this is just, it's such a strong.
It's an instant classic. You're watching it and you're thinking like, oh, like, this is the part that I'm going to think of when I want to rewatch it. Like thinking of the bus scene, I want to rewatch it right now.
Right.
Certain parts of certain Marvel movies do that. Like I'll think of a movie like, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do I really need to watch it again? But then I think of that montage of them getting booked in that prison.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, that's such a good section of that movie. I'm gonna watch the whole thing again.
Right.
Like thinking of the bus scene, thinking of when his mom and dad first met for the first time, thinking of him riding that fucking dragon, like all of those things.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewatch this.
And see, there's a lot of stuff we didn't even touch on, like the dragon or there's like the soul sucker thing.
Yeah.
Because again, like the story never lost sight of what the heart of the story was.
Yeah.
It would have been so easy for them to like focus on like the big battle.
If the soul sucker was like, this is the big bad the whole time. The big bad was like not having closure.
Yeah.
For a traumatic incident.
Yeah.
His whole family not having closure.
And you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, Black Widow was similar in that regard. So like I really appreciate these new types of stories that Marvel is finally telling. And I'm not saying like I'm like criticizing Marvel for like giving us bad movies,
or but, like saying that the earlier ones didn't have any of the same topics of conversation or weren't diving as deep in their own way. But it's just like the intention, like the driving force behind it is like different.
Yeah. And yeah, so I really just appreciate, because sometimes it's easy for a classic character like Spider-Man, like who just wants to do good.
Yeah.
We can all, everyone can relate to that in their own right.
Right.
But like these last two movies and even the shows that we've seen this year have all dived into something just a little bit deeper, a little more under the surface.
Human.
And yeah, it's making for really, really powerful storytelling. So yeah, Shang-Chi is just like, I think you're right. I think it's an instant classic for Marvel. I think if you are a fan of Marvel anything, you're going to enjoy this movie. But even if you're not, if this is the first thing you see, you're going to be a little lost.
You're going to be a little confused. But also like going off of that sentiment a little bit. We didn't even talk about how like Shang-Chi was never introduced in anything else. Like even Black Panther had an introduction before Black Panther.
Right.
It's kind of like the Guardians of the Galaxy paradox, the Guardians of the Galaxy phenomenon, where it's like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
Like I understand a little bit what the 10 Rings is, but even that wasn't true. What we were presented wasn't true in the past. So to take a character that like nobody had any idea about, even a character like, sure, there's the comics, we're not going to go off of them for the most part. And it's like, oh, I get it. Like I got it from the beginning.
Right.
I think that's also something that's super impressive that we've seen not work out. DC movies. And sure, it wasn't like a huge ensemble film or anything like that, but there's like a lot of new to Marvel stuff that I think was handled super, super well, because there wasn't a moment in time where I was like, I'm lost.
Right. And we mentioned it several times. I'm going to say it once again for good measure. Go support this movie. It's incredibly important to let the masses know that if this is the type of content you want to see out there on a mainstream level, you gotta consider it your investment.
You're voting with your dollar. Yeah. And that's like, again, it's unfortunate, but that's how higher up people value anything. Yeah. To make waves and to let them know that you're seeing this is the stuff you want to see. Yeah. That this can work. It's not, I mean, I know that the context was a little different in what old Bobby said, but a movie like this is not an experiment. Right. It is a true piece of art, in my opinion. And again, I know the context of what he was saying was a little different, but either way, like that is a view a lot of people share. Right. So yeah, go see this movie. Check it out in a matinee, like Kendra was saying. Save some money, but
that's how we did it.
But yeah, it definitely, like, seeing all the action and stuff on the big screen was special.
Yeah, come for the action, stay for the heart, because this movie was a lot deeper than what I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it. I knew I was gonna like it.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was gonna like it, but I just wasn't expecting the movie to kind of be what it was about, and that's a good thing.
Good thing. Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah, that's it. That is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, now playing in theaters. So go see it at a theater near you. It is not on Disney Plus Premier Access. But yeah, so if you enjoy the movie, please let us know what you thought in the comment section below. All right, y'all. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Peace. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, feel free to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. All right, see you next time.